So hi everyone, it is Erin. I'm going to play with a new little tool that I just got from Makin's Clay. This is an extruder, and there's a whole bunch of fun little applicators that you can add different shapes. Today I'm going to work with the square, and I'll have a video later on about how to play with this thing. I'm just going to show you kind of a quickie gist. My boys are infatuated with Minecraft, and so what I'm going to make for them is I'm going to go through and make little creepers. And if you've never seen a creeper before, it's one of those little Minecraft things, and it looks like it's a whole bunch of little squares all put together. And when I saw this little piece right here, I thought, oh, well, that's perfect. It's perfect to make a square, and I can do a long strand, cut it up, and then glue them all together to make a little creeper, and a couple for each of my boys. Creepers are black and green. So what I did is I pulled a whole bunch of black and green, and then I pulled the white so I could kind of blend some of the colors as well. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with a little bit of the clay. So I'm going to take half of this green clay, roll it up. You put whatever blade you want in the middle of this. And then actually, you know, yeah, that's about it. I don't want to do a ton. When you look at the picture of the creeper, you have to use it, at least the ones I've ever seen, is it's not just one color of green and one color of black. It's multiple colors of green, multiple colors of black. So you put your clay in there and you start twisting it up, and basically you just keep twisting until it squirts out the end. It's pushing, this is pushing, there's a little kind of a tube, and it pushes the clay out there. And you can have a ton of clay in here, you can just have a little bit. And there it starts to come. And see, and it pushes out in a square-like shape. It's exactly what we're going for. So it's going to be a one long tube. Now, if your clay is starting to get kind of old and gross, this won't really work to get a perfect square shape. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to let this rest and start to get a little bit hard, because if I try to cut into this now, it would just mush, see? Because this is an air dry clay. So if you try and cut things too quickly after you've molded it to a certain shape, it's just going to mush back down. And I want these to be little squares. So I'm going to go ahead and leave this off to the side, and I'm going to continue to keep making more clay tubes like this one and speed this up. Alright, so all my clays are done. I'm going to let them just sit here and dry now. The reason for the paper towel and for the water is before I was waiting to use them, I did not want them sitting here and the clay drying out over time. Now, one thing to keep in mind, the first clay that I did, I put in here and it did not have any other color. It was just a single color all by itself. The second strand of clay, if you notice, I layered in a bunch. I mixed them with white and then I layered in a bunch. And instead of coming out as separate colors, it kind of blended them all together. There's definitely a lighter section here in the middle compared to down here, but it wasn't segregated colors, because as it pushed it out, it kind of blended them, and you can kind of see the gist of that right here. See how this side's got a green, but then this side's this color? And for what I am doing for my particular project, it is just fine. It is not a big deal at all. So what I'm going to do now is let all of these dry for a little bit, probably about an hour or so. And while that's happening, or at least for part of what that's happening, is you want to make sure you clean this out. You cannot just be done with it and then let it go, because look how much there's a little bit of clay kind of left in the top here. And remember, this is an air dry clay. So if you let this sit without kind of cleaning all the little nooks and crannies of this, it will get hard and get, you know, messed up, and then you won't have a really good tool to use for next time. So make sure you undo this, This whole barrel, by the way, does come out. You can unscrew this right here. This whole piece comes out right here. Make sure your barrel is nice and clean. Get all the little nooks and crannies. You do have a little bit of an O-ring on here, and just clean this off. Just make sure this is all good and all little bits and pieces are cleaned off of here. That no extra clay is being left. And just use your eyes, clean it out, and then you can screw this back on. And when in the kit, we were given an extra ring in case this one ever gets bad. So just push this back on, screw this back on. And see, this is the piece right here. This piece right here is what screws up and down and goes up and down in your barrel. So just kind of keep that in mind. Make sure this is nice and clean. It looks good. I'm going to store my plate separate, and I do want to make sure that my plate is nice and cleaned. So I'm going to make sure I get all my clay. You want it to look almost as bright and shiny and new as when you first got it out of your box. Otherwise, you're going to have problems when it comes to the next time. And there is a ton of these little discs, and like I'm doing right here, I'm keeping all my discs in a little baggie so I don't lose them because they are super thin, and there's just a ton of them. So now on to the drying time. Let's wait and see. Let these guys dry for a while, and then we'll come back out and cut them. And we're going to cut them down to very specific shapes, not shapes. We're going to cut them down to very specific size so they fit together like little squares. So we're going to cut these down to squares in a little bit when they dry up. Okay, so my clay is really starting to harden up. As you can tell, I kind of went through and I did some already. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start scoring these. Now, the length of each of the square right here is about half a centimeter, so 5 millimeters. So I pulled out my ruler here, and all I'm doing is I'm marking where each half one is, and then just cutting it down. I'm using a serrated knife to get a nice, clean, firm edge. Cut the edge of this guy off. I should have done that first. And then if I kind of squished it, I'm just kind of squishing it back into a little square shape. So when it's all done, I have a whole bunch of little squares that I then can compile together to make my little creeper. So I'm going to speed this up. I'm just going to start cutting. All right, so I have cut all my little guys down, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use some Makin 3-in-1 to start assembling. Now, the basic look of a creeper, and I'm just going to do its head. I'm not going to do the whole body. So the whole thing should end up looking square-shaped when it's all done. Now, these are not perfect squares. They're as close as I'm going to get them, and I might do some more tweaking as I go along. But the basic shape, and I'm kind of looking at a picture I have, and this might end up being a little more flat than square, is you try not to put too many colors the same next to each other. And you're trying to make a square. So I'm going to go 5 by 5. And here's a kind of cool thing that you can see. As I did the really long strand where I had put all the different colors in there, the inside color is different than the outside color of the tube. So that kind of creates a really cool effect. I might have to play with that concept again later. So I'm just going to keep on layering up. And when this is all said and done and dried, I might go ahead and sand it down to make it a little more flat, because right now mine is not so hot. So then we have our creeper eyes. So that's where the black comes in. The actual creeper face is green, and then the eyes and the mouth and stuff are all in the black color. So I'm going to fill in my gaps here. So basically what I did is I made little clay building blocks, and I'm assembling into the shape. Add one in the middle here for the mouth, face, and then we go down and it creates a nose. Fill in the gaps on the other ones. So I'm going to keep filling in his face, and hopefully it'll start looking like a little creeper when it's all said and done. So there we go. Kind of like a little, supposedly supposed to look like a creeper. I think I'm not liking the black here. I think I'm gonna fiddle with that and keep the face looking like that. You know, they're not gonna look perfect. But I tell you what, I'm having more fun making it than anything. All right. So the key thing is to get this all lined up correctly. So what I think I'm going to do is get a little sheet of paper and then glue these down on the paper and then back them up on the back side so it has a solid base. So I just took a paper punch. I'm actually going to trim this down a little bit more because it's a little bit big. And this is just a thick cardstock. So I have my square and I'm just going to kind of translate. So I'm going to go ahead and lay this down and I'm going to pick the flattest, well, it really doesn't matter. So I'm going to basically relay these over. There it is. Now, it's not done yet. We're going to add a coating on the back. We're going to add some clay on the back and kind of wrap around and cover all this up and make kind of like a little flat piece and kind of go from there. So right now this just needs to dry and I'm going to make a second one real fast. All right, so I ended up having enough little leftover pieces to make 3 little faces, and then what I just did is I went through and I took each of the faces to kind of smooth down, make everything as flat as possible. I just went through and I sanded it down. Sorry if I kind of wobbled the camera there. Just to, and I keep kind of blowing to get some of the little, almost like sawdust kind of off of it. All right, so next stage, what I'm gonna do is and I need to get one more clip, but we're gonna turn these into little keychain fobs for my kids to put on their backpacks, just something kind of fun. So, you know, back to school, everybody likes to have something fun, or this could be just a regular old keychain, or they can kind of put out whatever. And it becomes kind of like a thing that my kids like to have, is they like to have something that's on their backpacks as a keychain pull or just, you know, whatever. And they like to collect them on there. So I am going to make a fun one for their backpack, and they love Minecraft. Rolling this out, because then what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up covering up the back side of our little creeper faces. And then we're going to fill this in to give in all the gaps with a special glue. The same glue. And we're also going to use the clay. We're going to use the glue to hold down the clay. So what I need to do is, my little square is, we're going to cut this to be one of these squares wide. So I don't know if you can see it. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to have quite a bit extra, and that's fine. So I'm going to trim this off right here. And it's okay if I'm a little bit off. There's going to be some extra, and that's okay. So I'm going to go 5 squares down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the beauty of this particular cutting mat is that it has marking on it, so you can cut. And then I'm going to cut as far over as I can. Now, all of these different green colors I've picked from have come from various variety packs. So all the different packs are listed or in the Makin's clay, and it was every green that I could find that I had on hand that came from, as you can tell, they're small little packs. So I think one came from the neon pack, one came from the jewel tone packs or something like that. All right, so the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this out, and I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to kind of run along here. And I did make this a little bit too big, and that's okay. So now I can fold this up. At this point, I have kind of separated out each of these little spaces. There we go. And then I'm going to fold it up and kind of tuck it over. And then because this is clay, guess what? I can mold this back down again, or I can cut this off and I can trim off these little excess pieces, which I think is what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to take this little corner and cut straight on all 4 sections, then it can fold up like a little box. And then because this clay is so moldable, I can go through and kind of clean up the edges and make it look like it's one solid piece. All right, so now that I've got kind of like my base for my little box, what I'm going to do is I just found a kind of a green twine string. And I'm just going to cut a little small section off. And I'm going to place, both sides of the clay feel pretty good to me. I'm going to place a dab of glue in the middle of my clay and put my string in the middle of that. And now I'm going to keep adding more glue, because this is the glue that's going to end up holding our back of this to this new clay piece. And push it down in. And it's what's going to kind of surround it. So now I'm going to make one little tiny slit on the top here. So that way my string can kind of fit in. And then I'm just going to kind of form it around. At this point, I'm going to add a little bit of glue to all 4 sides. Kind of encapsulating my little Minecraft faces, Minecraft creeper face. Go in and clean up your edge, push these together. And this part may not be 100% dry, and that's okay. It'll completely dry as a unit, and that's all good. So keep kind of pushing all this together. All right. Now, you could leave this like this. This is a cute little fob as it is. But what I want to do now is I want to go in and see how there's some kind of gaps in here. I'm going to use, let me get these little guys all in here and cover it up with some of the paper towel. So while I show you this next step, this clay is not drying out, and I'm going to put my other clay. I'm not going to have enough of the huge lime green, so I'm also going to put some of this darker green for the backing on these guys. So spray my clay, spray my towel until I'm ready to use it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and I'm going to fill in, and I'm going to kind of scrape away and also give it like a top coat. So I really want to just pour this on. I'm almost using this glue almost like a sealer, kind of like a resin in a way. It's clear and it's going to work just fine. So I'm going to put a big old dab on here. And that's probably way more than I need, and that is absolutely fine. And I'm just going to take a little plastic spatula, one that I'm not too concerned about, and use it to help kind of push it all in. To really kind of create a good coat and sealant, and see how it's kind of filling in all those little gaps. But you just have to go fast with this, because it will start to stick to everything, and you don't want it to look like it's filled up. And there we go. And take any excess off that you can. Use your finger to kind of wipe off the excess, and then you've created kind of a little seal to the whole thing. And there it is. Now you got a little creeper face. Whoops. This does need to have some time to dry because you're kind of setting it in. I would give this a good 48 hours before you let your kids kind of play with it, because it really needs to get the clay needs to get nice and hard, and the glue needs to fully set up, and it's all not 100% dry with both the clay and the glue. But see how he turned it into where it looked like it was all kind of lumpy layers and gaps, and the glue just really filled in all those little tiny gaps there. So it's perfect. The last step is to attach it to your backpack. I have these little clips here, so you can use this. If you have other fun clips, you could also use this. This would be kind of fun if you wanted to save these. These would be really cool and sweet little Christmas ornaments. So there's really lots of uses to these fun little guys. I bet my kids are going to throw these on their backpacks and it'll be all kind of fun. So I might change the length of the pull tab and really kind of shorten it up a little bit. So another fun clip that you can use to help kind of put on. I think I like this one a little bit better just because of durability. This is a fun little clip right here. And again, I think for the other ones, I'm going to shorten them up a little bit. So, but that's the idea for our little Minecraft backpack fob. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up the rest of these. So here they are, all completely done. I did change the length of the final loops, and I do need to get one more little clasp. So they just kind of fit on here, and then they can attach them to their backpacks. They can kind of put them wherever they want. They want to disconnect them from here. They are not done. This is the first one, and the glue is pretty well close to dry. It's not 100%, but it's getting pretty darn close. And I do like the feel of the shorter better. This one I did a modeled version of the clay. I kind of combined the two different colors that I had left of green, and this one was just a purely solid green. So thanks for stopping by and checking out how to make my fun little Minecraft creeper keychains, school bag fobs, however you want to call that, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.